You just get this clicking thing going. There we go. Let's go one back. You can maybe assist me there from the back. There we go. Okay, so I'm primarily an optometrist with diagnostic privileges, and currently run my own practice in Melbourne and then in Atlantis. My practice in Melbourne serves a very high to middle income, very different market to my one in Atlantis. And so having two essentially different areas to serve, we do have two different business models, and I've had to adapt my training to fit the two different areas. So I do have a special interest in contact lenses and also dabble a bit in low vision, so a little bit people who are going blind but they're not blind yet, and so it's a little bit outside the normal prescribing of spectacles. So when I was offered this topic, enduring hardships and challenges to start a successful business and organization, my mind went back to those starting years and all the things you go through, and you as an entrepreneur, as Marlon also said, you don't see no as a problem, you just dive in. You don't always consider the impact it will have on your life and so on, but you are so eager as an entrepreneur to do this that you basically make it work, even if there is obstacles. So the British Dictionary described entrepreneurship as the owner or manager of a business or enterprise who by risk and initiative attempts to make a profit. When I asked my wife Isoletta, she said no. An entrepreneur is someone who would rather work for 80 hours every week for himself rather than work a 40-hour week for a boss. We are dedicated. So the first point I want to get to, I'll just raise my hand, you guys can follow me. There we go, it's time management. Now, being your own boss initially can be difficult, but it's very fulfilling. But this is the important bit. You manage your own time, and being in charge of your own time means you are as good or as bad as the time, and not just time, but smart time that you put in. Having your own business means that your time management initially is of utmost importance, because there is not enough time to do everything that you want to do, and you don't have the resources always to get things off the ground, and financial resources and the capital in terms of human capital to get things off the ground. So you have to do everything. So it becomes important to have a structured way. For me, it was my saving initially. My parents both were not entrepreneurs, they were state workers. They could leave work, come home, spend time with the kids, put us to bed, and go to bed themselves. And you are structured into your way. So I don't come from an entrepreneurial background. But I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make my own decisions. So the starting entrepreneur who cannot take leave or breaks, because if you do not work, you do not earn income for your venture. I did not take even one day of leave for the first 7 years to establish my practice, even working some Sundays and all public holidays. I'm not saying this is healthy, but that's the way it worked out. As you become more established, you can pay people to do most of these tasks. In other words, you start paying to have their time. So you can see you can use your own time more productively, and then use your time smartly to think out more ideas which you pay people to implement for you. So the next point then was your team. Now, as an entrepreneur, you are in the business of ideas. The people around you should do the implementation and the repetitive work, which brings me to my second startup lesson. I initially employed a lady on hearsay in my practice without a thorough interview or background check. I was inexperienced and new to the idea, and I had to endure her for about a year. Meaning, she wasn't right for the position where I needed her. But she was the most amazing seller I've ever had. She could sell ice to an Eskimo. Okay? But what I needed at that stage was a person that's strong in admin. Okay? So be careful of the people that you employ, because they need to fit with you like a puzzle. With my two practices today, I try and employ a very strong person as a practice manager. She's there, she needs to be able to say no to the persons around her, but also work with them. She takes the lead and she manages my practices for me. I don't need to micromanage my practices because they're more than capable, and it's important for you as an entrepreneur to basically delegate to that person and say, you're going to manage this place for me, and they must know that they have your backing. With them, I've got a team of people who have not as strong personalities, but they are nice to deal with. My receptionists are my first point of contact with my customers. They must love to go in there and talk to this person. And them being of a softer personality, they do fit and work very well with my very strong personalities. So it's important to put some thought into how you train your staff and who you employ, basically. The other person that's important is the person that drives your business. It's the person that actually sells your product. He should be knowledgeable on his thing. I always try and employ persons from the Cape Technikon, also in my case on optical dispensers, because they are capable and they know the products, and if you know your products, you can sell them better. Okay? And then they, like these hands of those people, they all fit in together. And so put some thought into who you employ. Right, next point, money. Starting as an entrepreneur, you don't have enough money. There's always seemed to be a shortage. Except if you're lucky and your father's got some form of trust fund, but most of us don't have that. Okay. I certainly didn't. I grew up in Boksburg, Benoni. My parents were liquidated my matric year, meaning I had to go to varsity, but they weren't going to pay for it. And I always knew I wanted to go and study optometry from a very early age. But what did I do differently? When I was 10 years old, I started selling sweets out of my bag over breaks. There was always the kids who had money that could buy that. In the morning, 4:45, I would wake up. Is this thing working? You guys hearing me? Yeah. Okay. So 4:45, go and deliver newspapers. After a year of doing that, when I was 11, I could buy a bigger bike, so I could basically deliver 33% more newspapers. That's like, for an 11-year-old, that is a third increase overnight. So, and I always had a bank account somewhere where I deposited this money. Every Christmas, every birthday, whatever, a grandmom would bring me 10 rand, go and buy you sweets. My brothers went to buy sweets. I always put it in that bank account. So by the time I got to varsity, I could pay my fees and so on, and that money had an interest in the meantime. And so you can't wait on other people to do things for you. You have to do it yourself. After varsity, at varsity, my parents don't have money, so what do? I saw, at those days, the personal computers came in to the fore. A lot of my friends were looking for computers. I went to businesses, bought second-hand computers, refurbished them. My room was basically like a big computer shop, and I resold it to my other people in the residence, and in that way earned an extra living, so that in the end I could finish my studies. To no problem is too big to find a solution. Alright, so the next point I want to get to is never burn bridges. For the first 3 years I worked for an boss, and very nice gentleman. He managed the practice of 24 people. He had vast knowledge in optometry. He knew how to work with suppliers. What I did then is, when I went on my own, I took his staff member, because I thought, this lady, I can't go on without her. Look, she helped me greatly through those first years. She knew the business of optometry. She's also been doing it for many years. Before that, she was also a creditor and debitor manager for a big retail group in South Africa, so she knew how to manage accounts. But what did I do? I took the staff of a person that supported me for 3 years. Now, I've met him 3 times since. It's always been ice cold. I could never bounce ideas against him since then. I've closed that door. Recently, we had a problem with a computer system, a telephone. I tried to move from Telkom over to voice over IP. Never do it, by the way, not yet. And moving my telephones over, each time the internet goes down, my customers can't phone me and I can't phone them. So I'm saving a bit of money on the connection, but I'm losing money because my customers can't phone me. So the technology in theory works, but it is not practical. Now my staff immediately wanted me to go and change this, go back and what have you. But then the idea of you can't burn a bridge came to me, because that technology might improve someday and I might have to revert back to that person to help me. So I gave him a soft landing, gave him time to fix it. He couldn't fix it. And then in a man-to-man conversation, I said, okay, now you need to help me. Let's move back to telco. And this equipment that I bought from you, can you find me a seller? So I'm not stuck with all that equipment that I bought. And we parted our ways friendly. So the next point, yep. Starting your own business takes a lot of your time. Remember those 80 hours? Marriage? It was not a priority for me initially, even though I had this very structured life. I've married my high school sweetheart, basically, and she was unfortunate that she's got a strong, independent personality, but I think any other woman would have left me within the first year, because there was certainly not enough time. And something had to give. So 5 years into this amazing journey, I realized, hang on, my kids are also 5 years old. And I don't know how they got to 5 years old. So you start taking the life more into perspective. And as an entrepreneur, I would say family first, business second. Meaning structure, you can structure your day, but in the end, you need to be able to look the people around you in the eye. You need to treasure them, and you need to treat them with respect. Because in those 5 years, my wife's goals with her work, she's a programmer by the way, became secondary to my own goals, and we should be a team. Okay? Don't neglect the people around you. In this time, she bought me the book of Richard Branson. Now, the Virgin boss, I'm not comparing my business to his multi-million international company, but he had a book, Screw It, Let's Do It, Lessons in Life. And it's a quick read book in very accessible English, and in a way it changed my life, because there was a lot of things about entrepreneurship in that, but he had whole chapters on have fun, look after your family, and the penny dropped. So I found a lot to relate to, and I cannot begin to compare my small enterprise to his, but what a difference it made. The have fun chapter. What is the use of going on your own if it's one long black hole? Make time for fun. Decide in advance how and when and you want to have fun, and schedule it. You schedule appointments for clients, so why not schedule fun? That was chapter 2 in his book. He thought it being so important. Work should be fun too. Set clear goals for yourself to make work fun. Work at it until you wake up one morning and realize it is actually fun to go to work. Being positive before you go to work is a choice. But so is being negative. Positively, I found breeds positivity. If I'm as a leader happy, then soon my staff is happy. And if my staff is happy, they are happy with the customers walking and people want to come to us. Today, I make an hour each day. Every night, I make the food when I get home. My wife is involved, my 2 children is involved. We sit around the table, not in front of the TV. That is our hour to hear, how was your day? And for me to give lessons to them also about life and make them into little entrepreneurs, basically. Frederik van Zyl-Slabbert was a politician in the 80s. He loosely translated from Afrikaans said, make time for friendships, work hard at them, keep them going with effort. I have small friendships, very few, but we have substantial and deep friendships. And it's important to have other people in your life that walk this road with you and understand. So we can move on to the next steps. No man is an island. What I mean with that is get a mentor. Get somebody who's in the same place as what you are. For me, those first 5 years, I was on my own. Then I went to a conference, met up with some varsity buddies of mine up in Johannesburg. They were all in the same boat. We realized we were all going through the same struggles. And for that weekend, even though we were there for optometry weekend, fitting contact lenses, us three, we ended up in a restaurant every day, bouncing ideas, getting to know each other's businesses, talking about turnovers, how to handle your staff, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. That Monday, when I got back on that aeroplane back to Cape Town, I sat down, I wrote down 2 pages of things I wanted to implement in my business. Find somebody who's in the same boat as you or more mature than you in business and learn from them. And they will also learn some things from you. It should be mutual, but you can't go it alone. So we have kept contact in the years since and have grown to a group of 5. I try and call at least one of them on a weekly basis over one of my lunches. It's how's your children, how's your wife, how's business? And then we have a nice chat. We still unashamedly boast about what worked and complain about